Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Pace, and welcome back to everyone who's already a subscriber to the YouTube channel. If you're not already a subscriber, please subscribe so you can see more great interviews, including the one coming at you right now. Welcoming back to the show, Cody Mad Cat Matthews. Cody, welcome back.
Hey, Luke, thanks for having me.
Always great having you on the show. You're a pro MMA fighter. I got to sit cage size and call the action last summer when you did the knockout of the year for 247, knockout of the year versus Victor Lapari. You've since picked up a first round loss. I'm sure that was unfortunate by armbar, but now this will be your first fight after that. How are you feeling going into this fight for Shogun Fights March 30th up against Austin Hall, which we'll get to a little bit later. But talk about how you're feeling coming off that armbar loss and heading into this fight.
Yeah, so coming off two big knockout wins,
Yep.
and unfortunately dropping one to Jared Harris via armbar. It wasn't a real long fight. It was only 2 minutes. It was going my way for the most part. Jared did a great job at taking advantage of one of my very small errors and taking advantage of that little pocket to catch that armbar. And I got pretty good armbar defense. It's a rare position that I get finished in, but it's something he was able to do. So, yeah, I know it's tough anytime that happens, but you have to brush it off. You can't live in the past too much. Go back to the gym. Actually, I didn't even go back to the gym. As soon as we got done and I went back, I talked to Jared. He had mats down with his team. I said, hey, show me how you end up getting me back in your guard from my knee on belly and catching me in that armbar. I went right to, hey, what was the issue? How do I fix it?
Sure.
So, that's what you got to do in this game. You can sit there and pretend that you're the best whenever you have stuff happen to you and not change anything, or you can fix your flaws and keep on moving. But yeah, I'm feeling good. I've been training hard, improving my skills, improving on what I'm good at, and then advancing on some areas where I needed some work. So as always, you can never stop improving in this.
Yeah, and we've actually seen that happen. UFC every once in a while posts videos after a fight where a fighter goes to the person who had just beaten them, kind of like you did, and they ask specifics. And at the end of the day, fighting is a fraternity. You guys are all in the brotherhood of fighting, and I think it's a class act for you to ask Gare Harris for kind of the setup for how he got you in that submission, and it's also a hats off, a hat tip to him for being willing to show you that. That I think goes when MMA martial arts, particularly jiu-jitsu side of martial arts, is very much. I've been to a lot of tournaments, and most of the martial arts side of jiu-jitsu is very much I'll show you what works for me, you show me. It's very collaborative. So that's fantastic. Now you get to what you're training. Are you training specifically for your current opponent for Shogun Fights? Or is it really just about getting yourself up to your best level? How are you approaching this going into your fight versus Austin Hall for Shogun Fights 28 March 30th?
It's always going to be a little bit of both, but at the end of the day, you have to worry about yourself way more than your opponent. You don't know what they're going to come out with. You can watch a fight from, a month or two ago. We actually fought on the same card. That was the last time both of us has fought. But you can watch someone 2 months ago. They might fight completely different. They may have been working something totally different in the gym or have a completely different game plan fighting you versus their last opponent. So you can never put too much value into what you saw their last time out or their previous fights. For the most part, yeah, I'm working on myself, what I can do properly, because that's all I can control. Yeah, I know some of his tendencies, what he's good at, where he lacks, and obviously want to keep ourselves safe where he's good and exploit where he's not. But it's a fight that I really like. He's a strong grappler. He's young. I think he's only 21 or 22. It's really odd for me to say because I'm not old myself. I'm 26. Yeah. But I believe he does have a black belt, even though he's young. So, he's going to be dangerous on the ground. So, I have a strong wrestling pedigree. While I have been armbarred twice in my pro career, I have very good jiu-jitsu defense and offense. So, if we get to the ground, it's just a matter of staying safe there, being cautious of him throwing up submissions and trying to get back up to the feet. So Yeah, it's a matchup I really like. I'm excited to get back in for Shogun. That's who I made my pro debut for, but it was through the Jonathan Ogden charity event. So I didn't actually get to be on one of the big Shogun cards, even though I'm a Maryland native.
Well, I was going to say you're a Maryland native, and this is a big Maryland card. Great event you've got going on at the Shogun 28. And obviously, I appreciate you giving us a bit of a rundown for the audience, myself included, for Austin Hall. I just clicked on him on Tapology and saw that he's undefeated. Of course, he's 1-0 as a pro, but he's also 5-0 as an amateur. So, like you said, he's a young up and comer. You're still a young up and comer. You're 26, he's 21. And we've seen this, I sometimes look back on guys that became UFC champs, and you'll see sometimes they end up fighting, somebody else who becomes a big UFC guy very early in the career. I mean, that can sometimes happen. And so hats off to Austin Hall for being on such a great run, both in amateur and now 1-0 in pro. And obviously you had an undefeated amateur run as well. And we've talked about that on other podcasts, that you've picked up some losses in your MMA career, but you're still got a lot of skill and talent. The Victor Lapari, he was, an undefeated 3-0 guy, still got a lot of potential, training out there with Randy, the Natural Couture and Extreme Couture in Vegas, and you put on a terrific performance against him. So and this also shout out to Victor Lapari. He's still got a lot of opportunity ahead for him. So I think that's what's kind of exciting. When you're under 30 and you're a pro, and you're still developing your skills, you're going to end up seeing a lot of the same guys, and hopefully everybody kind of rises to the next level. So,
Yeah, I mean, I've never got to have I'm 3-3 as a pro. All three of my losses are against tough guys. Jalen Bates in Bellator was undefeated as an amateur and pro, and I fought him. J.R. Harris is about to have his second fight for Cage Warriors, and Nathan Lindsay was another tough guy, no brown belt. And my victories are big. Israel Galvin just beat the CFFC champ over the weekend, and
wow.
APFFC champ. He doubles as Mortal Lotus, very tough guy. Ben Coyle, after I beat him, he's had 3 straight knockouts in the first round. Again, Victor Lapari, 3-0. I never went out and just fought. I never got to fight the guys that were, just okay fighters. Everyone I've fought's been very seasoned and intelligent and tough fighters. So it's been good though. It makes me the more experienced fighter usually when I go in there, because I've seen everything, not everything, but I've seen more than most have in my, somewhat short career.
Yeah, and that goes a long way. Strength in NFL, we call it like strength of schedule. In this, it's strength of opponent, and that obviously is important. And hats off to Israel. You mentioned beating him early in both of your careers. Not only did he take out with a rear naked choke the reigning CFFC champ, but that guy was 8-0, and that's CFFC is a known pipeline to the UFC. So you're talking somebody that you beat in his first outing, your second pro fight is now probably on that path, and so are you too, as you put together a couple wins here. You had 2 big knockouts. We talked about it on the show several times. That's why I like having repeat guests, and people can go back and watch the old interviews. But at 125 pounds, you're a knockout guy, and that goes a long way. Obviously you've got the skill. I know you've got the ground game as well. You'll probably need it against Austin. You mentioned him being a very young, accomplished BJJ guy in black belt, and because 2 of your losses out of the 3 are by armbar, and sometimes that happens, right? Because I'm glad Gare Harris told you a little bit of the skill, the technique he used, because who knows, Austin may try to throw up an armbar. Sometimes when a pro sees somebody lose by a certain way, they tend to try to go back to that. But your only non-armbar loss was a split decision, which could have very well been the other way. So still got a lot going on with you. Do you look for winning by knockout? I know you have 1 decision win and 2 knockout wins. Or is it really about, because decision wins typically mean you control the fight, you're really kind of looking for ways to dominate, or do you kind of just take the fight where it goes?
Yeah, I mean, even as an amateur, I was 6-0. All 6 were finishes. I saw the second round twice, and these were decent, not decent, very good guys that were fighting. And it's good because it shows that you're capable of getting the fish. Like in wrestling, I consider myself a pinner. The objective's to pin. I don't want to go out there and just win by points. Same as in MMA. I don't force anything though. I think there's some guys out there, they force a submission, they force the knockout, and that's where they usually get caught themselves. You can't get overzealous. Yeah, I can hit hard. I'm a power puncher, and you don't see that a lot at 125. But I always tell people that are power punchers that I'm coaching, sometimes they really want to load up and cock back on stuff. Said you hit hard. You don't have to try to throw everything into every punch. You're going to make it happen. And there's more than just hitting hard. It's the angle you're hitting at, it's the counter you're hitting, the setup you're hitting. You can take any guy off the street that can hit hard and just let him swing for the fences, but you have to know how to do it. You have to know how to properly land that blow, whether it's a punch, a kick, a knee, an elbow. You have to know what you're doing there. But yeah, I always want the finish. The one decision I have is Israel Galvin, and we had fight of the night and went out there and slugged it out with each other. We were both hard hitting 25ers with solid chins. I'd much rather have knockout of the night or submission of the night than fight of the night. Not that it's not fun, but I like to have dominating performances. I don't want people to be close to, being on my level.
Yeah, well, and that makes perfect sense. Fight of the night is always very entertaining for the crowd, and we've of course seen guys way up to the UFC level where they're constantly always putting on fight of nights, but that also takes a toll. Fight of night typically means you took a lot to give a lot, and so if that's how you got to win, and of course that big win over Israel's, is a great win for you. Clearly, winning by a little bit more tactical precision is a great thing too. Always really great having you on the show. We'll have you back on, hopefully, when you get the win over Austin Hall. Do you have any sponsors you need to shout out, people you've been training with? Thank yous as we look forward to March 30th, Shogun Fights 28. And of course, you're taking on a completely undefeated, both amateur and now pro fighter in Austin Hall.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many people that play into this. It really takes a village. I've got Coach Rob helping me with a lot of stuff at Bower House. I have Brent Walter, my coach, my good friend at Ryoma. Been there with me since day one in my MMA career. I recently signed with Sucker Punch, and they've been great to me as well. It's been great to have them on. All my sponsors, I travel a lot. It's not cheap to be an MMA fighter. I'm a substitute teacher full time. It pays decent, but still got to put money out there. So sponsors like Il Forno, John JP's been a big help to a lot of MMA fighters in the Frederick area. Another big one I just got was the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad. Actually, you got that shirt on now. They've been a nice one to have. Happiness is Balanced with Allie's been there a long time with me. I can sit here and I got all these sponsors that have helped me out so much, and I'm very thankful for them. Also, it's like my parents and everything like that. Now my car broke down. I've been running my dad's brand new truck all over the DMV area for the last 6 weeks till I get my car this week, and I just came back from Kaizen sparring. That's something I gotta wake up at 7 o'clock, leave, and I don't get back here till 4:30, 5 o'clock. I put a more than an 8-hour day in that, but it's worth it. What you got to do.
Well, and you are the epitome of that, kind of still new in your pro MMA career, but it's a job, treating it, putting the work in, treating it as a full-time job, doing. Hats off to your dad, of course, for letting you put a lot of miles on his brand new truck. I'm sure that's not his ideal, and I'm glad you'll be getting your car back. But maybe you'll get a Toyota Corolla like I have. I put 125 miles on her every day, and she just keeps rolling. You need a good commuter car, but it really is. And I've never had, so I'm really excited. Hopefully one day you'll be back on the show and we can talk about the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad. Maybe you'll take a trip. Maybe you'll get a big win and can take a scenic victory lap trip. But that is one of the more unique sponsors. And I say this every once in a while on MMA Fancast because I try to use it as a platform to encourage not only up-and-coming fighters to kind of have courage and take the initiative to ask, because sometimes you're not going to get it if you don't ask as far as sponsorship goes. And you never know who's willing to sponsor. But I also say, and maybe the railroad is a great example. You know, if people that have a business or, you know, work for some type of company that wants to advertise, if they have an interest in MMA, reach out to a fighter, reach out to a gym, reach out to a promotion agency. You know, reach out to somebody and say, hey, we'd like to potentially sponsor somebody. I think sometimes people think, oh, well, would an MMA fighter really want to get sponsored by a railroad? Answer that question is absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, it could be anything. I know some fighters that come on the show, they've got hoagies named after them or subs named after them because some local shop puts on. And I remember the one guy years ago said, like, they asked me, like, would it be okay if we named a sandwich after you? He's like, what do you mean? Of course it would be. Like, I think sometimes that relationship, particularly when you're up and coming and you're very personal and you're great, you know, you're a great talent, is you can have these unique relationships with local businesses that, you know, help you out, but also help them out. So shout out to the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad and all your other sponsors, of course, as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the things where it's a small community, so you never know. You reach out, you know, that might be an ex-wrestler or boxer that owns that business, and they're going to be more than happy to help you out.
That's right. You never know. And so it is really great. And I appreciate you coming on. As always, best skills to you. March 30th, Shogun Fights 28 for the Mad Cat. Cody Matthews, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot, Luke. Appreciate it.
You got it, brother. You take care.